if we look at target 6.5, our mastery learning objective, I can write the equation of a line that is parallel or perpendicular to a given line through a point. So we're still talking about parallel and perpendicular lines, right? So all of our same things apply, right? So our parallel slope is the same, and perpendicular, the product is -1 or is the opposite reciprocal, okay? So point slope form is, right, if we look yesterday, we looked at slope intercept form and then what we call our standard form. So point slope form is a new form. And it's of the form y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You will need to memorize this. Okay, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. In this, we already know that m is our slope. That hasn't changed. But then we have this x1 and this y1, okay? And that's just any point on the line. Okay. And then our x and our y just stay in our equation. Just like the y equals mx plus b form, right? You still have an x, just a plain x and a plain y in your equation. So our first example we're going to look at is one where we just write the equation of a line. So I want to write the equation of in slope-intercept form. Okay. So this is point slope form, and we're going to start with that. But we eventually want to get it into that slope-intercept form. And remember, slope-intercept form is the one that looks like y equals mx plus b. Okay. So we want to make sure we know what that is. So we want to get into the slope-intercept form, and it's going to pass through 2, -2, 1, and have a slope of 9/2. So this is my x1, y1. That's my point on the line. And this is my slope, right? So then when I have my point slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I get y minus, well, my y1 is 1, right? No, we know m. Sorry, erase that. Then my m is 9/2. X minus, and our x1 is -2. Be careful, this is just like when we did our slope algebraically. If you have two negatives, you need both negatives, because then it changes to plus, right? A negative times a negative is positive. All right. Now I'm just solving for y. Now it's exactly like what we did the other day to get y by itself. I'm going to distribute. So I get y minus 1 equals 9/2 x. And then 9/2 times 2 is 9. And then to get y by itself, I'm just going to add 1. So we get y equals 9/2 x plus 10. Okay. That's it. All done. Let's look at example 2. Write the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that is parallel to y equals 3x plus 6 and passes through the point 4, 7. So again, here we have our x1, y1. we don't have our slope, right? And that's important for our point slope form. I have my point, I need my slope. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, so those pieces I know, right? I have y minus y1 is 7 equals, I'm just going to leave my slope blank, don't know what that is yet, x minus x1 is 4. Okay. So now, the other piece of information it gives us is this. I want to be parallel to this. Okay? Well, the slope of this line equals 3x, or equals 3 because the 3 is in front of the x. So then the parallel slope is also 3 because parallel slopes are exactly the same, right? So that's my new n. Okay, so the only thing different about this question from this question is we have that one extra step kind of to find that slope. Then doing exactly the same thing. I have y minus 7 equals 3x, and then 3 times negative 4 is minus 12. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Negative 12 plus 7, I believe, is negative 5. There's my equation, y equals 3x minus 5. All right, moving on. Write the equation on slope-intercept form of the line that is perpendicular to y equals 1/3 x minus 4 and passes through the point negative 1, 5. So again, for my point slope form, I need a point and a slope. It's right in the name. Right? So I have my point. That's x1, y1, right? So I can plug that in already. So I have y minus, my y1 is 5, equals, I'm going to leave my slope blank, x minus, my x1 is negative 1. Now, to find my slope, I'm going to use I want it to be perpendicular to this. Well, my slope of this line is 1/3. To find my perpendicular slope, well then, right, perpendicular, right, you do m times m should be negative 1, right? Your two slopes should be negative 1. So you can use that to help you out. So I'm going to do 1/3 times what I want my new slope to be, should be negative 1. Multiply both sides by 3. I left with 1m, or just your m, right? And negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Okay? So you can do that. Or, right, if it makes more sense to do the opposite reciprocal, right, you change the sign and you flip it. Okay? If you really need to, this is good. As you get better at seeing them and doing more examples, you'll probably be able to just see it quicker. So I don't necessarily need this work. Okay? So our slope is negative 3 here because it's a perpendicular slope. Now it's the same thing. I'm going to distribute my negative 3, being careful that a negative times a negative is a positive. So I have y minus 5 equals negative 3x. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Adding 5 to both sides, I get y equals negative 3x plus 2. All right, looking at example 4. Write the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that is perpendicular to y equals negative 5x plus 1 and passes through the point 2, negative 1. Same exact idea, right? So I have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? I already know my x1 and my y1 from this point. So I have y minus, my y1 is negative 1, equals, I'll leave my slope blank for now, x minus, and my x1 is 2. Okay. Again, I'm going to get my slope from its perpendicular to y equals negative 5x plus 1. So the slope of that line is negative 5. For a parallel, nope, this is perpendicular. Sorry. Again, for perpendicular, then your slope times your slope equals negative 1. So my one slope is negative 5. I'm finding my second slope. And for this one, I'm just going to divide by negative 5. Well, negative divided by a negative is positive, and I get 1/5. Okay? So when I have a slope of negative 5, my opposite reciprocal is just 1 over 5. So again, solving this, again, remembering that a positive or a negative times a negative is positive. I'm going to distribute, can't think. So I have y plus 1 equals 1/5 x. 1/5 times negative 2 is minus 2/5. If you need a calculator, that is fine, especially with all these fraction problems. Then I'm simply going to subtract 1 from both sides. Well, negative 2/5 minus 1, again, if you need a calculator, that's fine. But if I'm subtracting 1, I'm really subtracting 5/5. So if I have 2/5 minus 5/5, I'm going to have minus 7/5. So y equals 1/5 x minus 7/5 is our answer there. Great. Last problem, I believe. I don't know if there's any more. Write the equation in slope-intercept form of the line that is parallel to y equals negative 4/5 x minus 8 and passes through the point 5, negative 7. So again, we're going to use y minus y1 Again, we already know our x1 and our y1. So our y1 is negative 7. We'll keep our slope blank. And our x1 is 5. And we're doing parallel. Okay, so the slope of this line is negative 4/5. Right? For parallel, m equals m. So negative 4/5, our first slope, equals our second slope. Nice and easy. And then just doing exactly the same thing, right? Two negatives make a positive. going to distribute. So I have y plus 7 equals negative 4/5 x plus 4, right? Negative 4/5 times negative 5, a negative times a negative makes a positive, and the 5's actually just cancel. That's how we get that 4. Then I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. So I have y equals, oh, I forgot my x. Sorry guys, I keep doing that. Negative 4/5 x, and then 4 minus 7 is minus 3. All right, and that is it. Have a great rest of your day. Have a good weekend, and I will see you on Monday.